The tactical display in high command flickered with 1,000 points of light, a constellation of enemy vessels burning bright against the darkness. On the view screen, the azure curve of the human homeworld, Terra, hung serene and unsuspecting. From the flagship Sovereign's Wrath, the view was one of inevitable conquest. Commander Vexus of the Xylos Dominion allowed himself a rare, sharp-toothed smile. For 3 of their cycles, they had observed this world, this species called humanity. They were fractured, loud, and seemingly consumed by petty conflicts. Their technology was primitive, their spacefaring capabilities limited to their own solar system. They were, in every measurable way, a lesser species. The plan was simple, elegant, and absolute. Their armada, and 200 capital ships bristling with enough firepower to vitrify a planet's surface, had slipped through the outer system using gravity drift tactics, remaining undetected by the primitive sensor nets humanity had strung between the worlds. They had waited, patient as carrion eaters, in the shadow of Luna's dark side. The assault would commence at dawn, local planetary time, at the human capital city. The psychological impact would be immeasurable. They would strike at the heart of their government, decapitate their leadership, and the rest of the world would fall into such chaos that formal surrender would be a formality within a standard week. Vexus turned to his subordinate. "All ships report readiness?" "All. 200, Commander. Weapons charged, planetary assault shuttles prepped. The human satellites are blind to our position. They have no idea we are here." "Excellent," Vexus purred. "Their primitive minds are probably still dreaming of their simple, insignificant lives. Let us be the nightmare they never wake from." He turned his multifaceted eyes back to the view screen, watching the Terminator line slowly creep across the planet's face. "On my mark. All ships, forward thrust. We will be in low orbit and commencing bombardment in 14 of their minutes." The Xylos fleet surged forward from behind the moon, a silent avalanche of metal and menace. They anticipated panic, the frantic, useless chatter of a species caught completely off guard. They braced for the desperate, futile launches of kinetic missiles, the last gasp of a doomed race. They expected the thrill of the hunt. What they got was silence. Aunt Vexus stared at his comms array. There was nothing. No frantic military channels. No civilian broadcasts screaming in fear. Just the normal, mundane chatter of a world going about its business. A weather report over one continent. A sports game in another. It was as if they weren't even there. A cold tendril of unease, an emotion he thought his species had long since evolved past, slithered into his gut. It was the silence of the prey that had not yet seen the predator. But this was different. It was the silence of a forest that held its breath. "Status on their orbital defense platforms?" he snapped. "Still dormant, Commander. No power fluctuations, no targeting solutions. They appear completely inert." The fleet swept past the orbit of their primary space station, a large rotating wheel of metal and glass. It was lit up, clearly inhabited, but it made no move to challenge them. It just sat there. Vexus could see small vessels flitting about it, oblivious. This was wrong. Every species, no matter how primitive, reacted to an approaching fleet. It was an instinct, a survival mechanism. "We are 10 minutes from optimal bombardment range," the navigation officer announced, his voice betraying a hint of the unease that now gripped the bridge. Then, the screen flickered. One of the outer picket ships, a frigate on the fleet's far flank, vanished from the tactical display. Not destroyed, not with a weapons signature. It simply disappeared, its icon replaced by a burst of static that cleared to nothing. "Report!" Vexus roared. "Unknown, Commander! The Swift Talon is gone. No weapons fire detected. No distress signal. Sensors show Ah, nothing. Before anyone could answer, another ship, then another, winked out of existence. Panic began to ripple through the Xylo's fleet. Commands were shouted. Sensor operators screamed that there was nothing there. The silence from the planet below, once a sign of their superiority, now felt like a vast, watching eye. On the view screen, the Earth filled their view. It was beautiful, serene, and it was a trap. All ships break formation. Evasive maneuvers. Activate all sensor sweeps. Vexus's command was barely out of his mouth when the lights on the bridge flickered and died, plunging them into a terrifying darkness lit only by the emergency glow of consoles. A low, humming vibration ran through the hull of the Sovereign's Wrath. It wasn't the shudder of an impact. It was the feel of something massive and something impossibly powerful, gripping them. When the lights returned, the tactical display was a nightmare of chaos. Half of his fleet was gone. Just gone. In their place, the space around Terra was suddenly teeming with contacts. Thousands of them. They hadn't appeared from behind a moon, or from a jump point. They were just there, as if they had always been there, cloaked in plain sight. The enemy ships were of a design Vexus had never seen. They were not sleek and predatory like his own. They were brutal, geometric things, all sharp angles and armored slabs. They moved with an unnatural, instantaneous grace, flickering from one point to another in the blink of an eye. And they were everywhere. Orbiting Earth, Mars, the asteroid belt. It wasn't a fleet. It was an occupation. From the largest of these vessels, and a hulking behemoth that dwarfed his own flagship, a single powerful signal pierced his ship. It bypassed all his encryption, overriding his comm system with a contemptuous ease. A voice filled the bridge, speaking perfect, unaccented Xylos. You launched your assault at sunrise. We were already positioned in orbit. We have been for a century. You saw our primitive satellites and our single station because we allowed you to see them. You monitored our fractured broadcasts because we created them for you. We have watched your kind for longer than your civilization has existed, Commander. We know your tactics, your technology, your language, your fears. You are not the predator here. You never were. You are a lab specimen that just escaped its cage, and we are the researchers. Now the experiment is over. You power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. You have 60 of your seconds to comply. The transmission ended, leaving a stunned silence on the bridge of the Sovereign's Wrath. Vexus looked from his useless weapons to the empty space where his armada had been, and finally to the view screen, where the countless, silent human warships held their position. The sunrise he had planned to conquer by was just beginning to paint the edge of the world below in hues of gold and rose. It was a beautiful dawn. It was the dawn of his species' surrender.